Good evening, Razorback fans. Welcome to the one, the only Hog Talk podcast, part of the Believe and Buzz Radio networks, where you can hear us on 106.7 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I'm Border Hayes, and alongside of me is Adam Hall. We're brought to you by Bet Online. Continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games, available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device today to sign up and get in on the action. Remember to use the promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online where the game starts. And with March Madness in full swing, portal news in full swing, Adam, it's been a crazy week per se. Man, with Devo, now Blocker, your roster's very thin looking moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't know if I would say reports. I mean, I don't think you could say reports if it's just people that are linking Eric Musselman to the SMU job. There was people that was saying he was next in line or on the hot list for the Louisville job, and he has reportedly turned that down. So, your bracket gets busted just as much as these portal and coaching carousel talk. So, what's your thoughts on just the first day of the March Madness, and then of course the news about Blocker and Musselman?
Well, March Madness wise, which I haven't looked up everything yet, I was a little busy today, but I see that there's already been some SEC teams knocked out. So of course that's getting some talk of, was the SEC as strong as everybody was hyping? Flip side, with Musselman, who knows what's actually going on? I think any vacancy that really comes up, he's going to be linked to. He's going to be talking about. He's going to be on people's watch list, hot list, top list, whatever. And it's one of those things that as fans we hear that and I think immediately jump on. Oh, he's gone, or he's looking elsewhere, when we don't know what's going on behind the closed doors. So,
well, and with social media, though, I mean, here's the deal. This is, and you see what Eric Musselman's wife deleted her Twitter, went off Twitter, or whatever, deactivated the account. And then you see what Musselman did on Instagram. Now, along the lines of this, we've been in this predicament time and time again. So, what I want to do is say that, things like that do nothing but add fuel to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's their personal stuff, their personal business, but it's still, in this day, especially when you've been in broadcasting, you've been in coaching, how it's perceived. So, I mean, and then that's their right to do that, but it's still going to be perceived as, well, gosh, they're gone. And then you see all the portal news, then this is being linked or you're being brought up into these names. Look, you're just throwing gas on the fire. And I'm telling you what, with Arkansas not in the tournament and they're sitting here watching other teams play, they're sitting there scrolling on their phone. So they're seeing all this news. And of course, they're going to run with things. And it might be true. There might be smoke to him going to SMU. Wouldn't that be? I mean, what would Razorback Nation do if you lost Eric Musselman to a school like SMU?
I honestly haven't given it a second thought because I don't think it would happen. SMU is, basically came out and said that they're more or less going to throw the bank at, a coach. They want a big name. They want a splash. Let's be real here that SMU is just trying to find something to be relevant in. They've become decent in football, but they're never going to be a daily topic of conversation outside of Dallas. And even still, the people that live there, it's Texas A&M, it's Arkansas. So I think SMU is just trying to potentially stay relevant in some major sport. I don't buy the little bit of talk that's came out in the last 2-3 hours on it. But we'll see. And then, flip side to all this talk of Muss leaving, I have a gut feeling, and I could be totally wrong. If I am, so be it, that what if we see a 1 to 2 year extension for Muss come out of this?
Yeah.
What if this gets him more money and another 1 to 2 years added onto his contract. I mean, because I can see that happening before I could see him going to somewhere like SMU. And,
Yeah.
it's reported that he's already turned down the Louisville job. Some of these openings are already getting filled, coaches turning them down, whatever. Um, I see more realistic to a possible 1 to 2 year extension coming.
Only thing I see is what we talked about. Look at the roster next year. Look, let's just call a spade a spade. They're struggling to get NIL money. They're struggling. When you're offering people $25, look, they're trying, but they're just struggling. They're not getting people bought in. And when you see people leaving, and you even just the fact that if he was to entertain SMU, you look at the money down there, and you know that all it takes is a couple of people that you could get 2 guys that you pay them a good bag. You're in the Sweet 16, or you're competing for a Final Four. I don't know what the fan base is down there at SMU. They might be more welcoming. They might be less fanatic than Arkansas. He could go on a 3-game skid and they're not wanting, seeing what's going on, or you have all this talent, you go 8-10. But I don't know. But all in all, you're going to have a staff around you too. He can't do it by himself.
Mm-hmm.
But we know NIL is a huge factor in how you run off the greatest football coach of all time in football because NIL, and they admitted it and got caught some heat from their statements, which I am totally against their statements on it. But you have to know that if SMU comes calling, hey, we're going to give you say 6-7 million a year, and we're going to have people that are going to put 5 million, 10 million into the NIL fund for your team. That's hard to pass up. Plus, you're down in Dallas. You're down there in a hotbed where you can recruit. Duncanville. You're right there in Anthony Black's backyard, and you could get more talent that way. That are people who are one and done, because we know it's going to take in this era of basketball. It's going to take 2 or 3 guys that are NBA ready to win a national championship.
I was more shocked at the Layden Blocker departure than I was Devo. And I just felt like everything with Devo that has transpired over 4 or 5 years, it's one of those things that new start, new place, whatever. I kind of saw, and when I say test the draft waters, I don't want people to get that misconstrued with actually entering the draft. But, I saw him potentially testing the draft waters and then going overseas if he wanted to keep playing basketball. And that's not a knock against him. It's just I'm looking at the NBA, the G League, and I just don't see it for many players that were on this roster. So, overseas is your next option. And if that doesn't pan out, or that's not what you want to do, you've got to figure something else out. I've said since this NIL stuff started, and I used Devo as an example, use this to learn the business side of the sport. Find something else within the sport to go after. And, I know the way Raleigh Williams ended things with his playing career, he used that injury. He got his master's, I believe, after his bachelor's. And now he's head of football or head of sports at the sports agency Milk and Honey down in Dallas. So he's still on the business side of sports. And I think that the NIL could be used for these guys that don't have a future playing to, use it to just still be in the business. You don't have to step away from a sport you love. Just find some other way to be a part of it.
Yeah, and there's so much you can do. Get with somebody in the social media aspect of it. Go to the marketing aspect of it. Anything you can do to be a part of the game. And there's so many broadcasting. I mean, you can do all of these things, but when you look at Blocker's situation, I mean, we don't know what goes behind closed doors, but when you look back on it and when you're not getting played the final 5-6 games, I mean, all right. So was that something that now has been discussed? I'm going to enter the portal. This ain't the fit for me. And he just Musselman took that as okay after the season. You can enter the portal, and he just sits on the bench the rest of the season. I mean, you look at things like that and you wonder why, as a
Mhm.
guy who expect, this ain't a 23-8 team. This is a team that was, you're going to need, just try to throw everything you can out there, rotate who you can to get something going. And you finally got battle to click. I mean, why not? Why wasn't people playing? And that can be one of those situations. He could have been cashed out. You at the point to where now you're trying to find somebody to find you the school to go to. And again, in this world of NIL, where can I go get my money and try to elevate my status to get the NBA?
Mhm. There's a lot of questions that surround it. I think that, especially getting into basketball when there's fewer scholarship players or fewer players on the roster overall, um, we're getting into an area where you have players that, and I'm not saying this is the case for Leiden Blocker by any means, um, but you're getting into where players, obviously, they want the playing time. They might even be demanding the playing time. And if a coach can't guarantee that, they're going to go find a coach that will guarantee them that. We saw it with a recruit that committed elsewhere to a rival school. In his high school recruiting, he demanded a starting spot. Musselman wasn't going to give it to him because Musselman does not, basically let players demand spot. You're not going to do that. And so that said player went elsewhere. And so we could be getting into situations that players are demanding ample time or demanding whatever, and it's not going to happen. Go find a coach that's going to give it to you. But then we're, hearing about the likes of Vanderbilt, and they're going to have $3 million on the table for NIL. And you just have to sit there and wonder, number one, is that 100% accurate? And number two, if it is, what are you going to do to compete with it?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what it boils down to. A school like Vanderbilt is reportedly offering that up in NIL money. How are you going to combat it?
And that's a private school that does not have to disclose their financials.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole, Vanderbilt, the baseball thing that we get into when it comes to their baseball program
Mm-hmm.
and the scholarships and stuff. I'm looking at Musselman's buyout. And if he was to leave, this is as of 4 days ago, um, the school the school that hires him would owe Arkansas 1 million. So if he leaves, he owes the Razorbacks $1 million. And if he goes after next season, it drops to 750,000. So 1 million for him to leave and go to another school is chump change. Chump change.
100%.
And SMU would pay that to bring him in.
Mm-hmm.
So, he signed and this is what's crazy. He signed the extension back in 2021. I thought it was sooner than that.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at his contract and what's owed. Look, I mean, money talks, man.
It does.
And I'm sorry, and whether they're right or wrong, the SEC and the SEC fans, Arkansas fans, I mean, it eventually gets to you. A coach, you look at any coach that coaches at Arkansas, they age just like the president. You look at a president when they start, and then 4 years later, you look at the age of the president. Look at a coach when he starts, and then at his end of his tenure, look how much he's aged. I mean, that's what coaching in the SEC, coaching in D1 does to you. And Matt says, well, Vanderbilt doesn't use NIL money for football. That is true. I mean, but thing is, look at how many people are on scholarship or on your roster in football compared to these other schools where $1 million could go a long ways on a basketball, baseball program. You give $1 million to a football program, that's
Mm-mm.
nothing compared to what it means in the other programs. So, and Vanderbilt's just, I mean, again, you're having to throw money each year at players like that to get a program, and you'd still have to expect them to play. And what about the facilities? You can throw all the money, but who's going to come there and play in the facilities that they offer? I mean, they were playing in construction zone, they were playing a high school stadium,
Mm-hmm.
But on back to Arkansas, it's I don't know. You lose Musselman, and I'm sure that there will be plenty of coaches. You see it every year of up and coming coaches going to the Sweet 16 and make it to the big dance. I'm sure there's somebody who can come in and elevate this program or take it where it needs to be. But you're going to have recruiting, and you're going to have a solid system.
Mhm. Yeah, and we're in this area right now that we want answers, and the thing is with March Madness going on, which granted your teams that get further in, there's not going to be any coaching changes
Yeah.
unless it's a lower level school that's made a run, and then that coach
Mhm.
gets
Yeah.
offered a higher job. But the big names that would be viable are either in the tournament and could go deep, probably will go deep, not make coaching changes, or their jobs are already open. There's just a number of things that go into it. I think we're all, as fans, um, we want an answer. We want it now. It's not going to happen. So any post that comes out from a somewhat reputable source or whatever, we're just grasping to.
Yeah.
And I think we're jumping it a little bit because I personally don't see it happening.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You speculate and you just look at people. Of course, everybody who's the hot name,
Hmm.
and that all goes back to an agent. Hey, this job's open, and link him to that. Put him on. I want people to think that he's desirable
Hmm.
because look at the Gus Malzahn effect and what he did when he was at Auburn. And I guarantee to this day, if he would not have beat Alabama that year, he would not have still been the head coach. He could have possibly been at Arkansas. And you beat Alabama, and then you got stranglehold for the 40, I think it was $47 million or whatever that you could have got for going to Auburn or Arkansas would have paid that. But
Hmm.
you also got to throw that aspect in there. What if, in a sense, it's a business? What
Hmm.
if Musselman's using Hunter your check, and we've seen it with Browse, and he got burnt. But how bad does Arkansas want Musselman, and how bad does Musselman want Arkansas? That's what it's going to come down to. And the fact that he's looking, that says that somebody's piqued his interest. So if you're looking, you're not all in on Arkansas. And I want to say this lightly, but yet I stand by it. How do you say that in a press conference you're more focused than ever if you're looking for other teams?
But some of these reported inquiries that have come out were 2022, right
Yeah.
after he signs a extension in 21. And then now, I mean, like you said, a good agent's going to be putting out feelers.
Yeah.
So is that what these inquiries have been? We don't know.
Yeah.
But, fresh off an Elite Eight, fresh off a Sweet 16, feelers are getting put out. And it wasn't heard about because Arkansas was winning. And it's one of
Yeah.
those that was kept under wraps. I just think that if feelers were putting out when we were at our peak or at the top under Musselman so far, then what did fans think about it then? Or did they even know that it was going on?
Well, they were blinded by wins. I mean, you said it perfectly. You're blinded by wins. I mean, and look at the tantrums he throws, good or bad. And I've said on this show, we have to take that for what it's worth. We
Mhm.
can't accept the taking off the shirt and screaming at the top of your lungs and the antics and how other coaches perceive him as being too much. But then when it comes to the technical fouls, I mean, that comes with his nature. He's this or that. So if you want the very good must be ecstatic and jumping on tables to take it off his shirt, you have to accept the flip side of that he's going to be that hard in a negative way. So
Mhm.
you have to account that. But as quickly as you deactivate your social media, knowing how much you're on social media, I mean, he's everywhere. So a
Mhm.
simple what he said the other day in the press conference of I'm more focused than I've ever been, and then you delete your Instagram. Look, a quick I'm all hog, I'm all in, I'm ready to go. We're already in the lab. A tweet like that goes a long way. And look, if you're wanting to clear up your name or and you're wanting to ease Razorbacks fans' mind, I think that's expected. You're still under contract for the University of Arkansas. I think you owe that one, not just to the fans, but to your bosses. Hey, man, a simple post would clear this up. So the longer there's silence, the longer that shows me he's wanting to go somewhere else. And that's just my opinion. I could be totally wrong. That's just the way I see it.
Well, I mean, the same thing was asked when the other rumors that we all know about didn't come out and squash. I
You
mean,
talk about the personal stuff.
the personal stuff.
That's a different level. And
But I know, but it was said by people, why isn't the coach coming out and say something? He doesn't. I mean, I get where people are coming from.
yeah,
Like, come out and squash everything. But I get also why maybe he's not, especially if he is trying to leverage an extension and more money out of Hunter Yurchek.
yeah,
Because then if he puts that out there, I mean, it's one of those things that, okay, potentially his leverage is gone. He's waiting for that to come back and say, yeah, here's the money, here's the terms, and then, okay, I'll put that out.
I want to put this out there though. Does he deserve it? And yes, I'm not, and yes, it's going to seem like we're going off one bad year, but we're looking forward. His roster's gone. He's got a skeleton crew coming back. Do we think that he can bring in a bunch of players from the portal along with what little he has coming back and survive coming off of a year like he did this year? Now we got to remember, look, yes, they went to the Sweet 16 last year, but they were also 8-10 in conference and were saved by clicking later. His team's clicking later and later and later each year. Now you're going to bring more new people in and try to get them to click and play in the SEC. Now OU and Texas is in. What moving forward do you think he deserves to be able to have that leverage?
I think coaches in general are rewarded at times that they shouldn't be. I don't necessarily think that he deserves an extension right now. He got one in 21. I've honestly, if I was looking at it and he was going to stay and say, this was a bad year, turn things around next season, I think at that point he would be due another extension. Yeah. I'm in the mindset of same thing with when Pittman got his extension. I don't think that it was necessarily the right thing to do after, the 9-win season. He hadn't proven anything yet.
Yeah.
So I know Muss has proven a lot more, so I don't want to put them necessarily in that same boat, but I don't want Arkansas to get into a position to where they're consistently rewarding coaches with money and extensions just because they feel forced to.
Yeah, and they shouldn't, because I mean that's the thing. I mean, he's making $4.2 million right now, 12th highest paid coach in the country in annual salary. So that's not counting incentives and stuff and bonuses, but that's what I'm getting at. It's like we got to really look at the whole picture of your whole staff and what your whole staff's done, and bringing in 4 NBA players and all-stars, and then you have your assistants leave, you lose your NBA players, and now you have your worst season ever. So I think it comes to, does he deserve it now, or hey, come back, let's show me you can rebuild this thing, get back on the back track, and then we'll talk extension. I mean, that's the way I think it should go. But because again, you're making $4.2 million a year. That's just the way I see it, because again, you see getting too. I mean, they give him an extension this year, and then he has 2 losing seasons in a row. Now you're at $4 million trying to buy him out to try to find somebody to come in, and again, your NIL is lacking. They're going to have to step up their NIL game, and again, let's see what happens in the next couple of weeks about this with Muss, and hopefully he comes back. I think he should come back. I think he comes back and should lead this team back to the Sweet 16. I'm not saying he should go. I'm just saying that if things are there, then there needs to be clarification.
Oh, yeah, I get that. And I think, going, as much as people hate it, don't like it, whatever, Arkansas has to pony up when it comes to NIL. And that's just the god-awful truth is we probably wouldn't be having a lot of the conversations that we had if they were truly competitive in that. And people can hate on it. People can want to get rid of it. It's not going anywhere. So you might as well just accept it.
Yeah, exactly.
I
And
mean,
this talk of renovations, look, man, it's nice that you want to renovate your facilities and stuff, but I'm telling you, until you get this NIL situation and you get some fundage on that aspect of your program, you can have this nice renovated Bud Walton Arena, but you're going to end up winding up having nobody in there to watch the game because they're losing the battle. That unless they change the way, unless there's something going on with this NIL stuff we don't know about yet, 4 or 5 years down the road, they're going to have to get that under control. You've got a dam that's busting open about the floodgates in college basketball with NIL and the transfer portal. You gotta cease. Okay, we're wanting to renovate Bud Walton Arena. I think you need to put that on the back burner for right now and focus on what it's going to take to keep your program afloat and get back to where it's hard to say you're an elite program when you're under 500 in your conference.
I get that. And, the renovations I think we've both been fairly vocal about being against what has actually been proposed, not against the renovations. I'm against adding more premium suites and things of that nature to where you're taking out seats for the average fan to put it for. I mean, we see what, happens with baseball and all the corporate tickets and all the corporate tickets that go empty. And I just look at it that they're taking away seats that the everyday blue collar fan, they're not going to go, they're not going to sit in, they're not going to be able to. And I just don't see the positive in adding premium suites to Bud Walton Arena.
Yes, because one, you're going to take less seats away from a ticket that's already hard to get. Two, you're going to renovate and make a venue smaller, but yet ask more out of the fans to pay for a team they can't even go see.
And make sure that you see 2 to 3 NIL commercials before the game asking you to donate more money than you're already paying in concessions and tickets and travel.
You just feel like you're going to church and an aspect of it. Just throwing it out there.
Well,
they want you to pay X amount of money, and the people who are paying big dollars, they're even getting pressed for more money. And so you got to think, you're a big donor. You've been a donor for 25 years. You're paying $1 million a year, whatever it costs. And then they want you to do more. And there's no promise that what money you do put in the NIL is going to come in the award of, hey, we're automatically going to win. I mean, that's a gamble, of course, but it's just hard to sit here and stomach the fact that I went to a football game. It was an FIU game because it was a game where you could get a ticket for $16. But think about if it was an SEC game, full blown basketball or football or baseball. I mean, you're going to spend $200, maybe more, to take a family of 4 to go watch this. Meanwhile, paying $25 to $50 a month or whatever you want on your NIL package. And this is the common fan. This is the common working person who lives paycheck to paycheck or has a family. They don't have those funds. And I think that's what you need to cater to, because that's your more diehard fan. You get the fan that gets to go all the time. You get that, and this is a majority of it. You get that common fan that would love to go. They're going to have more passion because it means something to them to go watch the Razorbacks play, opposed to this guy just willing and dealing, wanting to take his buddy to show off the seats he has.
And I've been curious, which I don't know the logistics behind everything when it comes to NIL and who can, who can't, whatever. But I'm looking at, with a football stadium that's going to be renamed with a new sponsor within the coming years. Who know, we've heard
6 months ago. I thought it was,
some people jumped the gun on that one, but so say business A is going to pay X amount of dollars per year to have their name on a stadium. I mean, I feel like that you would get more return if you took X amount of dollars off that per year and they became an NIL sponsor.
Hmm.
So you're paying, let's say, $7 million a year for your name to be on this stadium. Why not drop it down to 4 or 5 million? And then you're donating 1 to 2 million
Yeah.
or 2 to 3 million to an NIL fund.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
you're
don't know
looking
if
at,
you can do that. I don't. I mean, and
and
I'm
I don't know. Yeah, well, I
sounds
just
like
look
a
at
good
it
idea.
like as many of these major businesses that are the ones slapping their names on facilities and whatnot. Some of these businesses, you might be the parent business, or how somebody that's like, hey, we're going to do this under this business or this name, but this name's going to be on the stadium. I mean, I know I'm reaching here, but I'm just looking at other venues than asking you or me to donate $25+ a month.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure there's 500,000 people out there that are willing to pay $25 a month.
I mean,
know
Nick,
there is. I
they
know.
might as well call Sarah McLaughlin and get us some ASPCA commercials going with instead
Lose.
of the
Oh my
instead
God.
instead of the dogs, you just have the fans and the Sarah McLaughlin music in the background.
You show the North Texas fake punt. You
Yes, I
show
mean,
the pop fly. You show the
and if
song
anybody wants to make that and use that, go for it.
that
By
would.
all means, we will share the hell out of it.
Could you imagine
I mean, I'm
if they
surprised.
made, losing against Western Kentucky, losing, just all the moments like that, and you put that in that would be genius. I think but then again, I don't know. We're just the ones that would reshare it and repost it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just why not at this point.
Well, I don't know about your bracket. Mine's already busted, but I'm going to continue to watch this thing and watch it play out. And then, of course, with all the news coming, we'll keep you updated with the latest news and scores with the baseball. They're starting their season. Of course, they're playing right now. Adam, you got an update on the baseball score?
What is looking at? We are, well, 1-0 was the last
Nothing.
score. It's loading right now.
All right.
Aloy hit the solo home run in the first. Here we go. Yeah, it's still 1-0 in the bottom of the fourth.
Yeah. Before we
So,
go on to this last question, with Blocker and Devo leaving, how much will it hurt us in recruiting in state?
I've looked.
That's hard, but
I don't. I look at the talent currently in the state. Now, when I say this, I am going off of like 24/7's recruiting and whatnot. And I mean, there's not a whole lot when I'm talking 4 and 5 stars in the state. There are several 4 stars that are out there, but there's not, and those could all change, with the upcoming basketball season next year or later this year and whatnot. I think that if Muss stays or goes is going to determine how the recruiting in the state is. So,
as much as this pains me to throw in while we are going off air, Arkansas is currently playing against Tulsa. They're currently down 34-9 in the second quarter of the WBIT with 7 minutes left in the second quarter.
I mean, do they have more than 5 players on the bit on the
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're playing with 7 tonight.
I mean,
so 4 for 21 from the line, 1 of 8 from the 3-point line.
In my head going to work this morning, I thought, I was just like, wouldn't it be something if like 5 girls are out on the court and just like made a run in this WBIT?
Yeah.
And then I was just like, oh, wishful thinking there, but just trying to make some sort of hope out of the whole current state of sports in Arkansas outside of baseball. Well, and track and softball, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, we'll know more about that too as well, and we'll talk about that more on Sunday when we come back. But that will do it for this episode of the Hawg Talk podcast, brought to you by Bet Online. Do not forget to download the Autograph app. Use the promo code not the. I keep on saying the. Use the promo code Hawg Talk. Download the app. Use that for all your Arkansas content. Great app. We use it all the time when we're reading articles, we'll listen to the podcast, and then so be sure to download that, and we will catch you on Sunday.